Are you trying to figure out how to safely use the equity you've built in your property to grow your wealth? Watch this and I'll show you the process that we take our clients through to ensure that they're able to grow their wealth and sleep at night. My name's Alex. I'm one of the directors of Voyage Financial. We've been helping white collar and healthcare professionals build their wealth through property and planning for over a decade. And in every video of mine, you're going to be learning something you can use to safely build your wealth. So we like to talk a lot about what we term Google investors. Now, you might have heard the name or the term Dr. Google before, and this concept is the same. These are the types of people who've listened to the podcasts, who've read the books, and have gone ahead with investing, having done their own research. Here's the thing though, property investing involves a lot of different knowledge domains, and one person simply you just can't be the master of all of them. So having a look at this screen, you can see that there's a lot to get right and many really don't. Why? Because property requires a team of professionals. It requires brokers to assess borrowing capacity and lending policy and understand banking products. And really, actually, I think this is the most important thing, to do some of that financial stress testing. And this will be probably the topic for another video, but ensuring basically all risk in property investing falls down to the very base level, which is the personal risk that you take on and the financial risk that you take on. And if we can properly financially stress test you, what we can ensure is that all the other risk that you take on in terms of the property selection and economic risk, we can weather all that if we've got the financial risk mitigation in place properly. But we need brokers, we need accountants to assess and determine and set up legal structures and to minimize taxation, which is critically important and one of the primary components of property investing. Ideally, we want to have financial planners on as well to assist with wills and insurance. And quite often they can help talk through the broader financial implications and strategies for your investment journey. And an example here is potentially putting property inside SMSF. And a lot of people go down this path and they do it with not a huge amount in SMSF. Without the proper advice, it's a really risky strategy. And so getting a financial planner, a good qualified financial planner to advise on this is really important. But that's just one example. There are lots of others. And then you actually need the property strategist. So seeing the trends in data, selecting the correct property, negotiating on that property, and that may be a buyer's agent. What I find, there's been a lot of buyer's agents coming into the market over the last couple of years. And in a market where everything is rising, everyone looks like a hero. Every buyer's agent looks like a hero. Every mortgage broker, anyone who's buying property, everyone's doing really well because the property market is on a bit of a tear and has been for the last couple of years. I've actually got a bit of a personal opinion that many people that are investing in the Australian property market are just lucky that the market just goes up and nothing really bad happens to them. And it's once the market starts to turn that people start to get into a bit of strife. So the process that we take people through, we've got a specified process called the property planning pathway. And what we have introduced to our clients is a circular, ongoing financial planning approach where instead of going, we just want to buy a property and then we go and find a property, it's actually a very deliberate, very structured approach to determine, number one, what you're trying to achieve. Number two, what you actually can do with that property. Number three, what you should do. Number four, executing that plan. And then number five, reviewing it and then going back to the top. Voyage Financial, we've got financial planning in-house and we've been doing that for many years. Well, we're pretty good at it. And we understand that wealth building is a circular, cyclical process. It's not just a set and forget. Although for our clients, quite often it does give that vibe. But in the background, we're always reviewing things. We're always analyzing things. And we're following this sort of circular pathway. What are we trying to achieve? What is ultimately the problem that we're trying to achieve here? What can we do to actually achieve that? That gives us a bit of a box that we can work out of. What should we do? Gives us the actual path that we need to take. Executing that plan, reviewing it, and then coming back to the top. So it's this continual, regular, cyclical motion. Just to go through those in a bit more depth, goal number one, what are we trying to achieve? And this is very much a financial planning approach. So where are we now? We're trying to basically set two data points here. Where are we now on the map and where are we trying to go? What timeline are we on? Really understanding the timeline that we've got to achieve what you want to achieve is critically important because that's going to determine the level of risk that we take, which leads to point number four, how much risk are you willing to take? And then what resources do we have both now and potentially anticipated in the future to achieve what we want? So that's number one. Goal number two is then determining what we can do. So when it comes to property investing, laying down the finance strategy first, super important. So what type of equity and cash position are we in? What can we borrow? What can we comfortably hold for the long term? You might remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about the importance of having that financial strategy as the base, because all other risk is going to basically collapse into your personal financial position. So in the face of a market downturn, what happens? Assuming increased interest rates, what happens? Assuming increased vacancies or a drop in income, like that income expenses gap on the properties that you own, how long can we actually sustain a larger income to expense gap? Once we've determined what those boundaries are, we can then go to goal number 3, which is determining what we should do. So bringing in and coordinating other experts is predominantly the most important part here, because as I said at the beginning, we need the accountants, we need the financial planners, we need the property strategists. There's this team that you really need to have around you, because we get asked all the time as brokers, where should I be buying? What sort of property should I be investing in? Our full-time job is just to get people finance. Just keeping on top of that is the full-time job. And we've got multiple team members. That's all we do all day long. So trying to figure out where you should be purchasing is, again, that's another whole industry. It's another full-time job. Someone else needs to be taking that on. Same with tax, same with all the insurances and the planning side of it. So getting a team of professionals who are all expert in what they do, critically important. So we look to bring in accountants for tax and entity structuring, property investment advisors and buyer's agents for property selection, and then financial planning, ideally for risk as well. Goal 4 is then executing that plan. So getting the valuations, preparing pre-approvals, setting up legal structures, finding property, signing building contracts if we're going down a building path. And there are really good reasons for doing that, which I may actually put into a video in the future. And then goal 5 is the ongoing review. So once we do actually have a property in the pocket, we don't just stop there. And to ensure that we're meeting our tax obligations in the future, we need to be getting regular depreciation schedules. We obviously need to be getting on top of property management, valuations, rates and finance reviews, insurance, etc. So there's a lot to do, there's a lot to get done, and it requires system, it requires process, and it requires a really good team. If that was helpful, awesome. Feel free to just drop us a line or head to our website. We would love to help you out.